Now we've gone over the basics for writing up a thesis proposal or a dissertation proposal. And ultimately, you want to think about what papers that you want to publish from your dissertation or master's thesis research. So keep this in mind throughout the development of your research proposal. And I'll cover some simple rules for structuring your papers. And these rules also help a lot when writing up your master's thesis or dissertation proposal as well. So 10 rules for structuring your papers. You want to make sure this IMRAD structure shines through on your proposal and also for the individual papers that you'll be writing from the chapters of your master's or dissertation proposal. So the most basic structure of any scientific manuscript or any chapter in your dissertation or any chapter in your master's research is the IMRAD structure. You'll have an introduction, you'll have experiments, you'll have expected results. When you're writing up your papers, you'll have your actual results. And then finally, you'll have your discussion and conclusions. So they all follow this common structure. So introduction, methods, results, and discussion. So that's where you get IMRAD. So there's another, put in a vertical column here. So here's what the IMRAD will look like. Introduction is what are you studying and why are you studying it? Here you establish background and nature of the research problem, the importance of the topic, and don't forget the novelty of your research. Novelty is very important when it comes to publishing your research. You want to indicate your purpose, hypotheses, and outline your main intention, the main purpose behind each chapter in your dissertation or master's thesis. And here you'll outline recent research relevant to your question that you're trying to answer, and review the relationship between the variables that you're studying. The methods and results answer the questions, what did you do? What is your methodology? And the results is what did you find? So this part of the paper, the methodology provides information on design procedures, your approach, your data collection, also data analysis. You should also have everything be repeatable. One of the central tenets of science and following the scientific method, you should provide enough detailed information that somebody can repeat your experiment based on the information you give in a scientific paper or your master's thesis or PhD dissertation. Then the results will state your main findings or what was accomplished. And then the discussion and conclusion is the who cares question. So what do your findings mean? And what did you learn from your study? Here you want to interpret your results, speculate on the meaning of your results, draw inferences, compare and contrast your results to other results in the scientific literature, the implications of your research, what are your limitations of your research. Every research has limitations. You want to acknowledge these. If you don't do it, then the reviewers will ask you to acknowledge those limitations. And then finally, you'll make recommendations for future research as well, and explain the significance of your study in the context of all the previous research. So rule number 1, you want your paper to focus on the central contribution, which you communicate in your title. So not only this transmits, I would say the take-home message, but it can also serve as a constant reminder to focus on in your text while you're transmitting that idea. So this is your take-home message. It'll be in your title, your abstract, your introduction, and also in your conclusions. Rule number 2, you want to write for people who do not know your work. So you want to be able to provide sufficient background information. You want to define any technical terms that you have, avoid abbreviations. You want readers to identify and understand the answers that you give with minimal effort. And people have working memory constraints, so they can only remember a small number of items, and they're better at remembering the beginning and the end of these. So it's important to have a strong introduction section and discussion section as well. So you state your hypotheses, and then you state your main results, and then you explain what the results mean in your discussion. You also want to stick to the context, content, conclusions. So the answer why I was told that, here, if the context is missing, you may miss the main message of your paper. Don't forget to answer the implications of your research, the importance of your research. You should answer the so what question. So make sure that your conclusion is there. So don't have a missing conclusion. So in this respect, the introduction will set the context of your research. The results give the content, and the discussion brings home the conclusion of your paper. And again, it's important to have a very strong beginning and a very strong ending. So your first sentence should define the topic or the context, and then the results, especially the novel content that you put forth for the reader's consideration, and then your conclusions. This provides the last sentences and the take-home message that you want to be remembered in your research. So you want to have a logical flow in your research, avoid zigzagging and using parallelism. You want to have similar ideas, have one immediately follow the other. You can also use parallelism, so use the same word to refer to the same concepts multiple times. This can be repetitive, but it's good to have the main message of each chapter conveyed in your research. And these are your keywords. You also want to tell a sufficient story in your abstract. I think the title and the abstract are the most read portions of any scientific paper. So again, here the context is very important. You want to give the research background. What is missing in the literature? What is that research gap, and why it all matters? So that's the first sentence, and then the content is your novel approach used to fill that gap, and then the summary of your results. And then the conclusion in your abstract should include the results to answer your research question, and how your conclusion moves the broader field forward. The introduction section is perhaps the most difficult section to write for any research paper. So here you want to communicate why your research matters. Why does your paper matter? So again, you want to highlight the current gap in knowledge, and also explain the current knowledge gaps in the methodology as well, and what your paper does to fill that gap. And then your paper actually gives the readers the main answer, and your research provides an answer to these research questions, and you want to explain why your research is important. Another rule that everyone should follow in writing your scientific manuscripts, you want to deliver your results as a sequence of statements. And the results section should be dominated by tables and figures. So here you want to convince the reader of your central claim in your paper, and that it is supported by data and also logical reasoning. In theory, this should be the shortest section of a research paper. It should contain the least amount of text and be dominated by figures and tables. And you should be able to objectively support data or steps that culminate to the paper's main claim. And figures and tables are often used by readers to skip directly from the abstract in order to save time. So when researchers are reading about your research in the paper, they'll usually, they'll read your abstract, the first and last paragraphs of your introduction. They'll look at your results, and then the first and last paragraphs of your discussion section. Another important section is your discussion. Here you want to discuss how the gap was filled, the gap of knowledge, and the limitations of your interpretation. This could be a low sample size, or there might be limits with funding, or um, the amount of patients that you have. Every study has limitations, and you want to make sure that you touch on these. And you also want to discuss the relevance of your research to your field of study. So the discussion section will explain how the results have filled your research gap, what are the limitations, and how the paper advances the field of knowledge, and also how it provides new opportunities for research. So you want to define and discuss future research that can be done. And you may actually raise more questions in your research and say, oh, okay, a future line of research can be this, but it's beyond the scope of my research. So again, the first paragraph will generalize or summarize the most important findings of your results section, and then you'll get in and explain the meaning of your results in a broader context. So you compare, contrast your results to what has already been discovered in the field. And it's very important when you're writing to allocate time to each of the sections of your manuscript. And so you can in turn allocate your writing time to where it matters. So that you can focus on individual sections like the title, abstract, introduction, the figures. It's also important to outline, have a nice outline of your research. And this will serve as a guide for conducting the research. And also when you finally try to publish chapters from your master's thesis or dissertations. And a good outline is very key to your success. So again, the title, abstract, and figures are viewed far more frequently than the rest of the paper. And the method section, this section is more for researchers that want to repeat your methodology. And keep in mind that section is read least of all. So again, it's very important to make an outline of every paper you intend to publish. And also it's important to get feedback. So share your thesis proposal or your dissertation proposal with your steering committee members. So again, reduce, reuse, recycle, get feedback from your peers and also professors who tend to be very busy. And then reviewers of your scientific manuscripts can also be extremely helpful. And this feedback process is very important, and it's vital to accept feedback in a positive way. Remember, they're not criticizing you, they're criticizing your work. And so it's important to take their constructive criticism in a positive way, and this can help you be your best.